Toxic373 says, reminder, Tom Cruise was right when he scolded Matt Lauer on the Today Show about psychiatry and antidepressants. He actually was right. Let's go back, because you mentioned it. Let's go back and remember, this was Tom Cruise back in, I think it was like 2004 or 5. This was a while ago. This was over 15 years ago. And he had this conversation with Matt Lauer and on the Today Show about psychiatry and psychiatric medicine and depression. And he has been mocked ruthlessly for this ever since. But it turns out he was 100% right. Let's watch that again.
Here we are today, where I talk out against drugs and psychiatric abuses of electric shocking people, okay, against their will, of drugging children with them not knowing the effects of these drugs. Do you know what Adderall is? Do you know Ritalin? Do you know now that Ritalin is a street drug? Do you understand that?
The difference is this was not against her will, though. But this wasn't against Brooke's will.
Matt, I'm asking you a question.
I understand there's abuse of all of these things.
No, you see, here's the problem. You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do. All it does is mask the problem, Matt. And if you understand the history of it, it masks the problem. That's what it does. That's all it does. You're not getting to the reason why. There is no such thing as a chemical imbalance. I'm saying that drugs aren't the answer, that these drugs are very dangerous. They're mind-altering, antipsychotic drugs. And there are ways of doing it without that so that we don't end up in a brave new world.
Yes, there are abuses. And yes, maybe they've gone too far in certain areas. Maybe there are too many kids on Ritalin. Maybe electric shock.
Too many kids on Ritalin, Matt.
I'm just saying, but aren't there examples where it works?
Matt, you don't even, you're glib. You don't even know what Ritalin is. If you start talking about chemical imbalance, you have to evaluate and read the research papers on how they came up with these theories, Matt, okay? That's what I've done. And you go and you say, where's the medical test? Where's the blood test that says how much Ritalin you're supposed to get?
It's very impressive to listen to you because clearly you've done the homework and you know the subject.
And you should. And you should do that also because just knowing people who are on Ritalin isn't enough.
That, he couldn't be more right about everything that he said. And what he says there at the end, though, well, just because you know someone on this drug and you say it works, man, that's not enough to declare that the drugs should be prescribed or that they work. But that has always been the response. Right? What Matt Lauer, I thought, did a very good job of playing the role of the kind of hapless, uninformed person who has dipped their toe into this issue and has a lot of has a few anecdotal stories, and then kind of goes along with the mainstream narrative because of it. He's playing that role, convincingly because that's who he actually is and was. It still is, presumably. But everything you heard from Matt Lauer in that exchange is like I've heard the same thing so many times over the years. You make all these points. You have data and research about the medicines that the so-called medicines that pharma is giving out, about the psychiatric industry, the way they go about these issues. You have your criticisms that are well thought out, based in research, based in the data, and then what you always get in response is, yeah, but I know someone who felt better with it. And then, well, it might be overdiagnosed, but certainly. And then you hand wave, just by with the acknowledgement that it might be overdiagnosed, you hand wave away 65 million people on psychiatric medication. And Tom Cruise, again, has been mocked for that ruthlessly ever since. He was 100% right. Now, Tom Cruise is a Scientologist. And as people have pointed out online over the last day or two, that, well, this doesn't vindicate Tom Cruise because he's a Scientologist, and his criticisms of psychiatry are rooted in Scientology. And the part that he doesn't say is that, yeah, modern psychiatry is flawed, you shouldn't take these drugs, you should be a Scientologist instead. That's the part he doesn't say in the interview, but that's what he means. That's where he's leading to. And you might be right about that. In fact, you probably are. Well, he is a Scientologist, and yeah, okay, so you're right about that. It doesn't change the fact that what he says there is true. And the fact that the kooky, crazy Scientologist has more insight into this issue and makes more sense than most other people talking about it, The fact that the Scientologist makes more sense than most of the psychiatrists and big pharma executives on this issue, that's not embarrassing for those of us who agree with Tom Cruise. That's embarrassing for the rest of you. That Tom Cruise is smarter than you on this subject. Like if you disagree with Tom Cruise on that, and Tom Cruise is vindicated, you should really look at yourself and ask yourself, like, well, how did the Scientologist get this right and I didn't? That should be the wake-up call. If you want to join my exclusive fan base, or a cult, that's what it is, we're forming a cult, then all you got to do is click the subscribe button and ring the bell below this video to stay up to date with all of my content. And if you want even more, you can watch or listen to my show at thedailywire.com, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Looking forward to welcoming you to the Sweet Baby Gang.